Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so glad you are here, and I'm so happy for your interest in this course and these precious teachings. Um, let's just spend a moment to give some thought about why are we here? Um, why do we take time out of our busy schedule to come to these classes and think about these things? What do we hope will occur? Try and raise the highest motivation that you can. Okay, great. So in today's class, we're going to talk about what is samsara and what is renunciation. You've been contemplating renunciation for a couple of weeks now. And so finally, we get to hear a little more about what that is. So we start off with samsara. And that is a Sanskrit word that means the cycle of pain, the cycle of suffering. Um, it's the cycle that we continue through, going over and over again until we finally break through and get released from suffering through the power of renunciation and bodhicitta and wisdom, the three principal paths. So these are just here on the screen, just a few words related to a cycle or the circle of pain, different ways that the word core in Tibetan is used. So kiln core, if you've seen paintings of mandalas of Buddhist deities, the Tibetan word for a mandala is kiln core. Horlo is the wheel of a car. Core is just the basic word to circle or to cycle. And korwa is the Tibetan word for samsara, the cycle of pain. I think many people, when they first come in contact with these teachings, think that samsara is a place that we live in now and that we're going to leave when we become enlightened. We'll go to our Buddha paradise, and that will be another place, a different place. Um, and we're trying to avoid samsara. We want to avoid suffering. But what is samsara more precisely than just a circle of suffering? Pabonka Rinpoche, in the book that we're reading, he says that renunciation is the desire to get out of Korwa. So if we don't know what Korwa is, how are we going to really want to get out of it? So first we have to know why we're in Korwa and what Korwa is. And he says, trying to get this around my camera so I can read it. He says, Sakche Nyelengi Pungpoi Kyun Yang Ne Yang Dulempa Ni Korwayin. So please repeat with me. You don't have to turn your microphone on, but just so you plant the seeds for having this language in your heart. Say Sakche, Sakche, Nyerlen, Nyerlen, Ki, Pungpoi, Jin, Yang Ne, Yang Du, Lempa, Ni, Korwa, Yin. So let's go through this. As I just talked about, Korwa is the circle of life, the cycle of life. And yin, I don't know if we've had yin before, but yin means is. So everything before Korwa yin is what the circle of suffering is. So Sakche means impure. Impure. Sak itself means a stain. A stain. Nyerlen is an interesting word. It means taken on. Taken on. Which you took on. We'll get to these other words in a minute, right underneath it. Ki means of. Pongpo. Say pongpo.
Pongpo.
Great, thank you. That means heaps or parts, but quite literally heaps, like a pile of things. And here in this definition, what we're talking about are the 5 heaps, the 5 parts to a person. Nowadays, Geshe Michael translates this word as body and mind. The 5 heaps or the 5 parts of you can be broken down into 2, body and mind. So they're your physical parts and your mental parts in your awareness. And they're called heaps this line here is from the Abhidharma Kosha. Pungdan kie ga rikidun, pungpo keche kam nam yin. And it just says why they're called heaps is because they're piles of stuff. So if you think about it, your body, you've got eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, hair, arms, legs. You've got all these different parts, and each of those parts has parts. So they're just piles upon piles. And it's the same as if we were going to talk about mental parts like feelings. Oh, we have so many different feelings, and we can have light versions of feelings and intense versions of feelings. So Abhidharma Koshik says that, yeah, we call them heaps because they're just a pile of things. Oh, I just saw an error in the Tibetan, which I will have to fix. That does not belong there. Um, so we are a pile of piles made of piles of stuff. In Sanskrit, the word is skanda, which you may have heard. Um, you may have, let's see, where did that word go? Okay. Then the next word in our definition is gyun. Say gyun. And that means a stream, like a stream of water. You may have heard this word, yunshuk, which means a stream enterer, one who has seen emptiness directly, has entered this stream. They is a stream enterer. They are inexorably, if you know that word, they are on, they have entered the stream that's headed for enlightenment, and there's no getting out of that stream. They will end up there. Yangne Yangdu, that means again and again and again and again and again and again, over and over and over again. Lempa means to take, and ni, that just means that's what. So if we put it all together, if I go back up here, the circle of life is, and we kind of go backwards, taking on over and over in a stream the all this goes together here. Sakje Nerlingi Pungboy, the heaps that the impure heaps that we've taken on. So the circle of pain is not really, it doesn't talk about suffering, does it? it talks about the parts of us are impure. And we constantly, over and over again, continually, I should say, over and over again, take these kind of parts on. So when Pabonka Rinpoche says that the parts are impure, that implies something else, right? Anyone have a guess? Come now, it's not as early in the morning for you as it is for me. Okay, you're a little shy today. Okay, it implies that it's possible to have pure parts. When we achieve full enlightenment, when we achieve nirvana, our dirty heaps become pure heaps. And the body is not like this. We have a body that's like a diamond. We have a body that is fundamentally different than the one we have now. It's still physical, but its nature is totally different. It has no more ashuddha. It has no more impurities. Now, if we go back to this word nirlen, what this word taken on, nirlen, it also has this flavor or context of being forced to take on, of being compelled to take on. We have no choice, it seems. And as we learn more about karma, and for those of you who have been studying, realize that our karma forces us to take rebirth into impure parts over and over again. And there are beings who are not forced to take on impure heaps. So you may have heard the word tulku. We actually talked about it last week or the week before, who take birth in a form that we can see and we can interact with. And they take on that kind of body by choice. Rinpoche is another word used for high spiritual beings who have that kind of ability. So they're not forced to take on a body. They choose to take on a body. So if it asks you on your homework, what does it mean? What does samsara mean? It's the condition of having to take on over and over again a stream of impure parts. So the object, the goal of renunciation is not to feel good. It's not to not feel bad. It's not to have peace of mind. Those are all worldly goals. And we're going to talk a little bit more about worldly later on. It's a worldly goal to want to have this life be peaceful. It's a worldly goal to want to have contentment with what we have. When we talked about, again, it was very briefly, and I think it was the very first class, we talked about the 3 scopes of students. And the very lowest scope and the lowest motivation related to the Buddhist teachings is to stop the continued existence of an impure body and mind like this. We want to purify the very parts that are us. That's the lowest goal. So, what would escape from samsara be? What is liberation or escape from samsara? What will happen when you escape from samsara? Anybody? Everybody's very quiet today. Thank you, Laura. You do not have to take impure heaps again. Right. And the important thing there is have to. We won't be forced to take on impure heaps again. We won't have to anymore. So liberation means not having to take on a birth like that of impure heaps over and over. That's what liberation is. That's what our lowest motivation for coming to these classes. If they're in, the Buddhist realm of motivations, that's the lowest motivation we would have for coming to these classes. I want to get out of having to take this kind of birth again and again and again. Right. That's renunciation. So when you meditate on renunciation, this week you can add that flavor into your meditation. And we barely accept the possibility of future lives, maybe. And we barely accept that this life is really all that unacceptable. I mean, I can see that we all are nice and warm or cool, depending on where you live on the planet. We're clothed, we're fed. People are normally smiling when class starts. So maybe we have a hard time accepting that it's such a bad thing. Um, but renunciation is renouncing, is giving up, having to take on impure heaps over and over and over again. So, what keeps us in samsara? Oh, what does it mean now? Ignorance. Oh, that's a good question. Um, if you've been coming to mixed nuts classes, and Sugong Shi has a text called "The Wheel of Life," um, talking about the 12 links of dependent arising, and the sort of uh, amazing thing that that book tells us is that misunderstanding uh, is not like the is not the cause. It inspires something. It inspires attachment and aversion. Um, we say, I want to escape from samsara, but samsara is not a place. Samsara is a state. Uh, it's a condition. It's being forced to take on impure heaps over and over again. Um, so, we are samsara. We our impure heaps are us, impure body and mind. That's us. Um, so to escape from samsara really means I want to change my whole nature of who I am from being impure to being pure. My continued existence in this impure collection of heaps of body and mind is the truth of suffering. It is samsara. That's what we want to escape from. So, le nyun ki ching. What keeps us chained? Because it is as if we are chained, being forced to take on these impure heaps. What is the chain? C'est le nyun ki ching. So le, that means karma. In colloquial Tibetan, le means work. Um, the Abhidharma Kosha helps us understand karma, and Laura touched on it in the chat. Lele jiktang na soke, deni sempa dang deche, sempa yiki yin le yin no. Le ni sempao. Any movement of the mind is karma. So anytime we think, anytime our mind moves at all, thinks or feels or inspires an action, that is karma. And Dangdeche means and what it brings, or as Laura said, what comes from it. The deeds of body and speech that it motivates. So any movement of the mind is lay or karma. So anytime you have any little thought at all, we often have narrations going on in our minds, and minds will pop from thinking about one thing to another. So any little movement is karma. It's movement of the mind. Nyun, that is an abbreviation of Nyonmong, which means bad thoughts or negative actions. So jealousy, for example, or anger, or ignorance, those are all Nyun. And Gyig is here, it's an instrumental because it has this suffix that makes it an instrumental. And Ching means chained. Chained. So we are chained by karma, movement of the mind, and negative emotions. They are what keep us in this stream of continued existence in a body that's going to rot eventually, or until then give us pain and suffering. Our karma and our bad thoughts. And it's ignorance that motivates the movement of the mind and our bad thoughts. So ignorance is like, I don't know, the supporting actor. In the wheel of life, it's the pig that has a snake and a chicken coming out of its mouth. So eventually, but not today, we will be talking about how, if misunderstanding or ignorance is the motivation for karma and bad thoughts, how it is that how it is that understanding first and then directly experiencing second, how things really are, the true nature of reality, emptiness, can remove bad thoughts and karma. So we have to think about how, or we will be thinking about how understanding can have anything to do with not getting angry. And for myself personally, this linking of emptiness and karma is something that I heard from Geshe Michael, some decades ago, that I had not heard from anyone else, to put them together this way, to make the whole practice of these teachings seem quite doable, right? That it's not a fantasy to become an enlightened being. Oh, I just have to understand emptiness and then use that understanding and that experience of seeing it directly to get control over karma and negative thoughts. They're integrally related. So I always thank him for that. So what keeps us chained to samsara? And again, it's not a place, it's a state, it's the condition of having to take on impure heaps over and over again in a stream. What keeps that stream going is le nyomon, karma and negative actions. So now, what use is renunciation then? What's the object of renunciation? What is renunciation tired of? Well, that's where we want to be, is nirvana. We want to have peace. But what is it that renunciation is focused on? Renunciation is sick and tired of suffering, yes, but more specifically, what we're talking about is taking on impure heaps over and over again. Right, Laura, to stop the condition of being forced to take on impure heaps. Renunciation is sick and tired of our body and mind as it exists today. If you are who you seem to be, that you're just teeny little rays of light, actually, which is kind of cool. To me, you're all teeny little rays of light. So without renunciation, without this, without being in the state of mind where we are absolutely fed up, we've had it, enough, no more. I don't want to take on impure heaps over and over. I don't want to be forced to do this any longer. We have to reach that state. We have to have this. I mean, disgust is a really strong word, but it's more just an acknowledgement that, hey, this is not the way I want to live my life anymore. I don't want to be forced to have suffering body and mind. We can't go to thinking about how we can help others until we have renunciation. Until we see ourselves, what the korwa is, what samsara is, how can we help anyone else get out of samsara? So you could say, like, and I'm just making up this analogy, and maybe Geshe Michael would tell me to be quiet, but like misunderstanding is the motivator for karma and negative actions. Renunciation is the motivating factor for bodhicitta, for the wish to help all other beings, and the wisdom understanding emptiness, the wisdom understanding the way things truly are. So when we, if we don't have this strong renunciation, we could have the idea that, and you often see this, at least I often see this, that people say, oh, they're a real bodhisattva. That guy's a real bodhisattva. When what he just did was, keep the door open for someone or carry someone's heavy load. And of course, that's a nice thing to do. That is a nice thing to do, but that's not bodhicitta. We need to get out of this cycle of being forced to take on impure heaps over and over and over again. And bodhicitta is wishing that others can do that as well. It's not just that others have something to eat or that others don't have to do hard work by themselves or that others get rides to where they want to go. Those are all nice things, but those are not related to getting out of being chained to taking on impure heaps over and over again. Now, is it nice to call someone a bodhisattva? Sure, no problem. But just remember what renunciation is. And with bodhicitta, that's what you want to do, is the wish that everyone be free of being forced to take on suffering heaps over and over. I mean, this is actually the very lowest motivation that compassion can have, which is to look at someone else and say, like me, that person has dirty heaps. And there's nothing about those 5 parts to them that isn't suffering all the time. But we'll talk about bodhicitta later. I'm just jumping ahead. Okay, so now that we know what samsara is and what keeps us chained in samsara and what renunciation is, being sick of it. Now, how can we stop desire for this life? There are different levels of desire, again, related to the motivation. So, who can tell me what book we're studying? In reading and falling in love with. Isn't this a beautiful book? I just love this book. Lamso Namsun. Very good. Thank you. The 3 principal paths. And we made a big deal. Was it the first class? About that lam or path wasn't a road you walk on, but a realization, a tokpa, a mental state. And this book, Lamso Namsum, is the ultimate like distillation of a genre of books called Lam Rim. Lam Rim. And Lam Rim means steps on the path. And when we talk about Lam Rim, well, Rim means steps, and Lam means path. But here we're talking about actual path that we walk. In this context of in this context of the genre of books called Lamrim, they are specific steps that we take in a specific order. Do this first, do this second, do this third. And we do these steps to reach our goal, whether it's getting out of suffering, whether it's getting out of taking on a lower rebirth, whether it's getting out of suffering altogether, or whether it's attaining full enlightenment. So our use of the word Lam, when we talk about what we're going to talk about next, is different than a realization or a tokpa. So we're going to talk about. So there are many different lam rims, and we talked about some of them before that Jason Kappa wrote, but there are many others as well. We're going to talk about 2 of they're sort of early lamrims, not in the sense of when they were written, but when a practitioner practices them, these steps. Oh, and I should say also that lamrims are very interesting in that you can meditate on these individual steps in order, and you can cycle through them. And in my practice of lamrim, it gets deeper and deeper each time you cycle through the different steps. Anyway, so we're going to talk about 2 different lamrims for removing attachment to this life. The first one is called Delnjor. Say Delnjor. And the second is called Chiwa Mitapa. Say Chiwa Mitapa. Normally, lamrims start, the very first step is Shinyan, which we've already talked about. It's finding your teacher. And we've talked about the different qualities related to a teacher, and related to a student, and relating to what it is that we study. So that's usually how lamrims start out. But they go next into Delnjor and Chiwa Mitapa. So Del literally means slow in Tibetan. So if you see someone like racing through a hallway or something, you would say, Chobu, Chobu, slowly, slow down. It's translated as leisure. And Jor stands for Jorpa, which means fortune. Leisure and fortune. So this is one kind of meditation on the steps of the path to enlightenment. The leisure and meditating on the leisure and fortune that you have. And in your reading, you'll find out what they are. Be sure to read the footnotes as well. So there are things like being born as a human, having eyes and ears, having sense faculties that function well, so that you can hear the teachings, you can read the teachings, having intelligence, having the ability to analyze the teachings, having the ability to distinguish between what is a positive thing to do that will bring positive results, and a negative thing that would bring negative results. To understand what emptiness is, we need intelligence. And it is our intellectual understanding of what emptiness is that we'll use until we see it directly to counter our very strong habitual pattern to continue in this cycle of taking on impure heaps, right? The chains, being chained by karma, movement of the mind, and negative actions, negative emotions. You know, our normal way of acting is that when someone hurts us, we hurt them back. It's like we don't even have to think about it. It feels like it's an instinct. It's not an instinct. It's just a very strong habitual pattern. And so in order to stop that, to keep ourselves from acting without thinking, we need to apply our understanding of emptiness so we can start to chip away at samsara. We're born in a place where the Buddhist teachings still exist. There's billions of people on this planet we inhabit who have no idea what Buddhism, what the Buddhist teachings are, and they never will. They don't have Delmtor. You are quite literally one in several million. Your fortune is so great. It's so rare. What you have is this precious opportunity to break the chains that keep you in the cycle of having to take on these impure heaps over and over again. So that's leisure and fortune. Unfortunately, nyeka. Nye means find, and ka means difficult. So leisure and fortune are difficult to find. You may have heard the analogy of a turtle who normally lives at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, and he comes up once every, I think it's 1,000 years in the story, and floating on the surface of the Pacific Ocean is this little inner tube that is leisure and fortune, which you'll read more details about. And so once every 1,000 years, this turtle comes up to the surface of the ocean to take a breath of fresh air and look at the nice blue sky. And where he comes up, who knows? So for him to come up once every 1,000 years and come right through that inner tube of Delmtor, leisure and fortune, that's how rare it is. So Pabompa Rinpoche divides our desire into two types. One is where we want good things in this life, And one is where we want good things in our future life. And normally, people don't think about next life. I mean, in my country, well, no, even in my country, people don't really think about next life until, they're getting old in age and all their friends are dying. And they start thinking about, oh gosh, am I going to heaven or am I going to hell? What's coming next? Is it going to be a nice experience or a bad one? Some people, certainly in different religions, it doesn't matter, think about this at a much younger age. But I think normally people don't think about it until they're older, and it feels to them like they're knocking on death's door. So these two meditations, which we haven't talked about Chiwa and we talked about yet, but the Delnjor Newa, thinking about our leisure and fortune and how difficult it is to find, that kind of meditation removes our attachment to this life. The stage we want to get to, renunciation, will be a state when we realize there's nothing here for us. There's nothing here that will benefit us. We'll reach a state where we just have no interest in the things of this life. And again, it's not like a place or a particular things. It's not about wanting a car or not wanting a car, or wanting a VW Bug instead of a Tesla or something. It's not about that. It's about having to take on impure heaps over and over. That's my refrain of the day. And related to that is understanding that the stuff around us well, no, we'll get to that later. So contemplating our leisure and fortune and it being so difficult to find, we come to recognize how precious the time we have for studying and practicing the Buddhist teachings really is. And it can motivate us to continue to put our efforts into it and finding ways to practice these teachings, not just on the cushion, for example, but as we walk around in daily life, as we interact with other people, as we walk down the sidewalk or take a ride in a car or stand in line at the motor vehicle department, or anything we do in the line at the grocery store. We can be practicing putting these teachings in our life, in our hearts. So we're in a very rare opportunity, and it will end at some point. as Geshe Michael often says in his classes, that there will come a day when the first of us in this group will die. In this state, in this condition of samsara, we die over and over and over again. Not only these physical and mental heaps go away and we take on new ones, but even in a day, we can experience like our emotional state of mind is going all over the place, constantly up and down, feeling good, feeling bad, being happy, being sad, being content, being dissatisfied, being happy, being angry. We're bouncing all over the place. And that's what Chiwa and Mitakpa are about. So Chiwa is having to die. And Mitakpa is impermanence. Being chained in samsara, we have no way to avoid death. Death is certain. And there's no way for us to know when death will come. It could come in the middle of our next meal. And impermanence, things come and go. We lose loved ones. We gain friends, we lose friends. We have good skin when we're a kid, and then we get older and it starts getting all wrinkly and weird. Our eyesight fails. Our cars break down. Things fall apart. So with this meditation, I mean, one day you just get up and just go, this is just crazy. Why are people spending time watching football on TV? It's insane. It does nothing to help you get out of this chain, being chained to taking on suffering heaps over and over. Why waste time on that? Totally crazy what everyone does. Everyone dies. Why do people get angry with each other over, I don't know, politics or religion or anything? We're all going to die. So those are the two meditations for helping us release our firm grasp onto desiring this life that we have. Leisure and fortune and how difficult they are to find, and death and impermanence. And the last thing we're going to talk about is called Jikten Chuge. Say Jikten Chuge. And this is in your reading. And I think it would be nice to just read aloud to yourself this little poem, which comes from Arya Nagarjuna's letter to a friend. Se nye dang manye. De dang mi de. Nien dang mi nien. Tu dang me. So Jikten, this is the Jikten Chuge, the 8 worldly thoughts. So Jikten means the world. Ch, we've had before. In Sanskrit, it's dharma, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean dharma as in dharma teachings. And here it doesn't. It means thing. And Geshe Michael calls it thoughts. And Gye means 8. The 8 worldly thoughts. So these are things that, being worldly, being associated with this world, our samsaric world, we want to avoid them. So they are 4 pairs of 2. The first one is nye. Say nye. That means getting something. Like something that you want to get, like a new car or a good job. And then manye means not getting something that you want. Someone else gets the job you wanted. Someone else buys the car that you wanted to get. So the first one is getting and not getting. That pair. The second one, excuse me, is de. Say de. And mide. De means to feel good. Feel happy. And mide, what do you guess? It has that me coming before it. Typically one of those negative particles. So what do you suppose mide is? It's feeling unhappy. Yes.
Opposite.
The opposite. Yes. Feeling sad or feeling bad. Feeling good and feeling bad. So the first one, getting something you want, and not getting something you want. The second one, feeling good and feeling bad. Then the third one is nian, say nian, minyan. Nian means being well known. Could be even popular, but well known. It's like a kind of fame. Like you walk into a room and everybody knows who you are. Like, oh, there's Laura. Yay. Laura's in the room. Minyan means not being well known. You could go to a place, I don't know, you could go to your high school reunion and nobody knows who you are. Nobody remembers you. So we have getting and not getting. We have happy, feeling bad. And now we have getting well known and being unknown or invisible. And then the last pair is te, say te, and me. So this one's a little bit different than the others in that it's not really easy for us to see that the second one in the pair is the negative. Because this word is not it's not a negative particle like the other ones have. Anyway, so te means people say nice things to you. Oh, you look so lovely today. Oh, I really admire the way you talk about the teachings. You're so intelligent that you know how to put this into practice. Wow. So people say nice things to you. And then you can guess, is when people say harsh things or negative things to you. And these things are so related to impermanence of, going up and down, where one day someone could be praising you, and then the next day they could be speaking harshly or badly to you. Like one day, oh, you're the best employee here at the company. I'm so glad I have you here. And then the next day, you're such an idiot. Why didn't you finish that project when I told you to? Up and down. But I kind of put it off as flattery, but it's not really flattery. It's just speaking nicely, people using words in a nice way around you. So now, related to these four pairs is, with the first one, we feel happy about it. So we feel happy about getting what we want. We feel happy about feeling good. We feel happy when we're well known, and we feel happy when people say nice things to us. Then with the second member of each of the pair? Take a wild guess. It's feeling unhappy. Feeling unhappy when you don't get what you want. Feeling unhappy when you're feeling bad, like when you're sick or something. Oh, I'm sick. I can't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. Instead of just, well, I'm sick. Okay. Anyway, feeling unhappy when you're not famous. And this is, I think, especially hard for people who were once famous and then they become not so famous or not so well known. It's particularly difficult that going that way. And then feeling unhappy when people say harsh or bad things to you. So those are the 8 worldly thoughts. Now, is it possible that when you've reached renunciation, when you have renunciation, you won't have the 8 worldly thoughts? What makes these 8 worldly is how we feel about them. It's the feeling happy about getting what we want and feeling unhappy about not getting what we want. So it's not that you stop getting what you want. It's not that if you have renunciation, you no longer have, spaghetti for dinner or something like that, whatever your favorite meal is. It's a test of your renunciation is how much you swing about being happy or unhappy about these 4 things. Getting what you want, not getting what you want. Feeling good, feeling bad. Having fame and not having fame. And people speaking nicely to you or people speaking badly to you. So just even hearing about this, we can use Shin, which is our attention. We place our awareness. Like this can be a touchstone for you. If you keep a book, for example, if you have any vows and you keep a book to look over how you're keeping them, you can also just add this in. Did I get really, overly excited or happy about getting something that I wanted or not? Or just to look and see what happened when I got stuff I wanted today. What happened when I didn't get stuff that I wanted? Or when I got stuff I didn't want. So we get to start paying attention. And the more our renunciation, the stronger our renunciation gets, the less swayed we will be by these 4. People are still going to say, negative stuff to us. Where if we're in samsara, that's what's happening. We are going to not get what we want. Fact of life in samsara. How upset or happy do we get about these 4 pairs? And you can meditate on it. Qigong, that just means analytic meditation. You can take this to the cushion and and review and see how it fits in or not with renunciation. And how it is that when we're swaying, feeling really happy about the positive sides of the pair, the first member of each of the pair, and feeling unhappy about the second member of each of the pair. Those are movements of the mind. Those are the chains that keep us having to take on impure keeps over and over and over and over and over. The more we respond in that way, the more our mind moves to be unhappy with something or really happy with something. The more we're tightening those chains around us, keeping us bound to cycling in the wheel of life, korwa. Natural reaction is when you don't get something you want, you want to somehow take it. Maybe steal it. Maybe lie to somehow get it. We do all sorts of negative things to get what we want, or to avoid not getting what, or to avoid getting what we don't want. And with the same with all the pairs. It's not just about feeling happy or unhappy. It's about what do we do in response when someone speaks harshly to us. Our again, it's not an instinct, but our very strong habitual pattern is to respond like with the same tone of voice and the same kind of words. I don't know if you had brothers or sisters, but gosh, I can remember being in the car. You're stupid. No, you're stupid. I mean, back and forth and back and forth. Like, oh my gosh, how many gazillion seeds did I plant sitting in the back seat of the Volkswagen bus? So that's it for class 5. I didn't leave any time for questions, and I apologize for that. Thank you for being here. Please dedicate all the movement of your mind from this entire class towards the highest possible result you can think of. Because that's how that is going to happen. We dedicate our study and our practice for what it is that we want to see in the world. So thank you. Please have fun with the homework and the readings, and I'll see you in a couple days. Thank you, live translators. I love you. And thank you, all the tech team and ACI and Geshe Michael. And okay. Oh, and if you have time, you can volunteer with ACI. If you have time to help, they could use some help. Okay, see you next time.